Post-training notice. National First Class Registered Exorcist. Extra Chapter. Just like the Kin and Shan stars, Part 1. Amidst the early midsummer morning, the air in Guangzhou was warm and fresh. Rays of the sunrise reflected on the Pearl River, and thousands of acres of golden waves rose up to the surface. The whole city's vegetation woke up from a deep night's sleep and stretched their branches and leaves in front of the dawn, letting out the natural flavor of the bustling city. Breakfast stalls opened one after another, and the dining cars of steamed rice noodles, soup dumplings, tea, and chicken with sticky rice were launched forth. The smell of tea, the steam of breakfast, the rush of traffic, the water vapor of the Pearl River, and the fresh taste of trees in the city of gourmet food mixed together, it was just like the imprint of the city, which made people feel comfortable. Gaga oh la la. I want your love and I want your revenge dash. You and me we could write a bad romance dash. Lady Gaga's song accompanied Xian Hezi and Chen Zhen as they ran across Binjiang Avenue. Xian Hezi held a fake iPhone in his hand, and put it on speakerphone to play the song that he had borrowed from Zhi Ziaduo. All the way, the sun shone brightly alongside the elderly people practicing by the river in the morning to my Chinese heart. Two people wearing sportswear ran out of Xiang Cheng's house and ran back and forth along Binjiang Avenue, followed by Lang Dog who had come out to get some fresh air. Wait. I can't do it anymore, wait for me Xian Hezi leaned against the side of the road to catch his breath. Chen Zhen ran, and then discovered that he was alone. He turned around to look. Your health is too poor, Chen Zhen said. Xian Hezi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, saying, Director Chen, when did you become so amazing, who? Xian Hezi gasped for a while before reluctantly following Chen Zhen to run. I sat in the office for too long. Xian Hezi said, I'm lacking exercise, who? Chen Zhen said, that's why we need to issue more missions. Look at how healthy Lang Dog is. Lang Dog panted with its tongue out and wagged its tail at the two of them. It's a dog. Xian Hezi went crazy, how can it compare with people? The two of them ran past a breakfast shop. Want some breakfast? Chen Zhen said, I'll treat you. Xian Hezi said, can I be reimbursed instead? How about you give me the money instead and I'll head back to Xiang Cheng's to eat? Chen Zhen gave Xian Hezi 20 yuan. Xian Hezi couldn't stop thanking him and went to the breakfast shop with Chen Zhen. Chen Zhen ordered something to eat for himself and also ordered something for Lang Dog. The boss went out to steam the breakfast and then came back in. Suddenly, he saw an extra man, Lang Dog, dripping with sweat, and sticking out his tongue while eating breakfast, which startled him. Are you in a bad mood? Chen Zhen rubbed Lang Dog's head and asked, have you been worried lately? Why aren't you talking anymore? He's fallen in love Xian Hezi said sympathetically and then said to the boss, I'll just have a cup of tea. After drinking tea, they returned to the riverside villa. It was just after 8 o'clock, and only then did Xiang Cheng's household gradually wake up. The Yaogui woke up first to clean and prepare the ingredients for breakfast. As for when Zhi Ziaduo and Xiang Cheng came down to eat, or whether they ate at home or not, that was something for them to decide. Zhi Ziaduo's meals were personally cooked by His Majesty, so the Yaogui could only prepare the ingredients and wait for their great king to cook. Fengli had established strict rules earlier. If His Majesty and the Empress hadn't eaten yet, the Yaogui weren't allowed to eat at home. If they were really hungry, they could go out for breakfast. So, after taking a shower, Xian Hezi waited blankly on the sofa, waiting for Zhi Ziaduo to wake up and have breakfast, his stomach growling with hunger. Chen Zhen scrolled through his phone at the side. Director, can you show me what they have been doing recently? Xian Hezi asked. Chen Zhen looked impatient and avoided Xian Hezi. Xian Hezi then asked, can you lend me your phone to play with? Let me check out my moments. Chen Zhen said, don't you have one yourself? Xian Hezi said, my phone is too buggy. As soon as I open my moments, the program crashes. Chen Zhen, no way. I have work documents on it. Can't you arrange for a package where you sign a contract for a call plan and they give you a phone? Chen Zhen said, every time I contact you, something goes wrong. Xian Hezi said, oh, I don't have money, so I have to be economical. When I celebrate my birthday, Xiaoduo might even give me one. Chen Zhen said, what's the use of saving so much money? Buy one first and use it ba. Xian Hezi had to just sit there in a daze and chat, and Chen Zhen said, go to the entertainment hall and watch TV ba. Xian Hezi went to the entertainment hall. The wolfhound had transformed into a human wearing shorts, he was shirtless and stood 1.8 meters tall. He was lying on the carpet watching a pet video. Xian Hezi took the remote control and glanced at Lang Dog playing a game next to him, and was then startled. Wow! Xian Hezi said, you're a dog, but even you have a 6+. Lang Dog was wearing earphones and looking intently at a beautiful collie. Xian Hezi's self-esteem suffered a certain setback at that moment, and he suddenly began to feel that his life was a bit of a failure. Lend me your phone to play with for a bit, Xian Hezi said. Is it easy to use? I'll go buy one another day. Xian Hezi went to lift Lang Dog's earphones, but he didn't know that Lang Dog and that collie's owner were currently on a video call. The actual purpose was to watch the dog there, and when Xian Hezi lifted his earphones, he immediately became furious, barking away, and chased after Xian Hezi to bite him. Xian Hezi had to run away. So, Xian Hezi went to the kitchen, where two pandas wearing chef hats were preparing breakfast ingredients for Zhi Xiaoduo. Is there anything to eat? Xian Hezi asked. Not now, meow, replied the panda Yao. You're a panda, why are you meowing? Xian Hezi said. The panda stood at almost 1.9 meters tall at full height, with broad shoulders and a plump body, and said, wait until His Majesty wakes up. What do you have for breakfast? Why are there watermelons? Xian Hezi was very approachable to the Yao. In Xiangcheng's estate, only the Yaogui didn't find him annoying. A dish for the Empress replied the panda. The panda was digging at the watermelon. He cut it in half and used a spoon to dig out the middle part, forming a small ball with a diameter of less than 3 centimeters. He put it on a plate, and put the remaining watermelon aside. Xian Hezi couldn't help but ask, it's such a big watermelon, but you're just spooning out a small middle part. Yes the panda said, His Majesty's orders, we are only supposed to use the tastiest part. Xian Hezi saw 5 or 6 watermelons filling the kitchen, all of which only had a small center portion dug out while the rest was left there. Immediately, anger surged in his heart. What about the rest? Xian Hezi asked. We're going to eat it ourselves said the panda. Watermelon is very delicious. Then give me a piece ba. Xian Hezi immediately changed his tone. Another panda said, His Majesty is not up yet, so we can't eat. Xian Hezi wandered into the garden on the mountain in the back. The small mandrill from the northeast who lived there got up very early, but it had not yet cultivated until it could transform, so it sat in a pile of leaves in a daze. Xian Hezi also passed by, sitting in a daze. He didn't know why, but when he saw that pile of watermelons with only a small center part dug out, his thoughts were strongly impacted. On this sunny summer morning, the sun was scorching warm, and he began to reflect on his own life. Money and items were like a torrent. They came out of nowhere and carried countless people involuntarily towards the future. Why were there poor and rich people in this world? Why were some people able to eat yogurt without licking the lid, while others can only chew watermelon peels? When Shifu was still alive, he said that this world was a materialistic one. To understand this world, the first step was through material means. His life was like that of Shifu's, with the goal of hoarding material possessions. However, Xiang Cheng once said that in life, everyone needed to constantly lift themselves up and update themselves. But how was he supposed to update his own life? Xian Hezi began to feel a bit confused. This was a problem he had not consciously reflected on before. Xian Hezi! Zhi Xiaoduo shouted from the balcony, "It's time to eat breakfast." Upon hearing that it was time to eat, the mandrill ran over happily, climbed onto the balcony, and reached out to Zhi Xiaoduo for a hug. Zhi Xiaoduo then hugged the mandrill and came down. At first, Zhi Xiaoduo didn't really love this mandrill because he thought it looked too strange. Moreover, the mandrill belonged to him, and the ginseng and lingzi were taken by Chen Lang, which made Zhi Xiaoduo quite depressed. The mandrill also shed fur all over him. Fortunately, Xiang Cheng said that the mandrill was an orphan, like himself. Only when Zhi Xiaoduo thought of this did he think that he really needed to treat the mandrill well. The little mandrill was very sensible and didn't cause any trouble for Zhi Xiaoduo. Instead, he was very obedient. Zhi Xiaoduo slowly started to like it, holding it as he moved downstairs, rubbing its hand, and saying, "What are you and Xian Hezi talking about? Don't lend him any money, oh." The mandrill called out a few times, and the pandas placed a baby chair in front of the dining table. Zhi Xiaoduo then placed the mandrill in the baby chair and gave it a large bowl of mixed rice and a spoon. Recently, it's been shedding a bit. Xiang Cheng came over after finishing cooking, rubbing the head of the little mandrill, and saying, "Eat less salt." "Good morning everyone, let's eat ba." The pandas bowed to Xiang Cheng, and the Yaoguai at home said to each other, "Long live the queen and the king." Then they left for breakfast and began a happy day of working. Xian Hezi saw the fried egg, French toast, milk tea and fruit plate in front of Zhi Xiaoduo, which aroused another sense of melancholy in him. Recently, Chen Zhen had come to Guangzhou to investigate an overseas Yaoguai smuggling mission and stayed with Xian Hezi at Xiang Cheng's house for half a month. Now that the investigation was almost complete, it was time to leave. Zhi Xiaoduo gave the little mandrill a few bites, then gave it a spoon to eat on its own. Seeing Xian that Hezi was feeling a bit unhappy, he asked, "Xian Hezi, what's wrong?" Zhi Xiaoduo still kind of liked Xian Hezi. This guy knew how to be a guest and not steal any tea or sugar. As Xian Hezi himself said, "I never touch anything that doesn't belong to me." Borrowing money was the same thing. If someone said they wouldn't lend him any money, Xian Hezi would drop it. He just heard Xian Hezi sigh. Xiang Cheng also noticed and said, "If you don't want to leave, just stay a few more days." Zhi Xiaoduo suspected that Xian Hezi just didn't want to go back to Beijing for work, but Xian Hezi smiled and said, "It's time to go now." Zhi Xiaoduo felt that Xian Hezi was really abnormal today and said, "If you have any difficulties, you can talk about them. The organization will find a way to help you solve them, Comrade Xian." Xian Hezi thought for a moment and said, "Suddenly, I have no goals in this life." Without a goal. Goal. Zhi Xiaoduo thought he had heard wrong and said in a daze, "What goal?" Xian Hezi said, "I don't have any." Zhi Xiaoduo and Xiang Cheng looked at each other, and Xiang Cheng also had a surprised expression. Xian Hezi looked at the watermelon balls in Zhi Xiaoduo's plate and said, "People are neutral and uneventful, living in this world, struggling to make money, work, save money, buy a car, buy a house, strive to climb up, eat well, and live well. With so much money but no goals, and not even knowing what to do tomorrow, do you guys feel happy?" "Happy? Zhi Xiaoduo said, "We're just so happy, aren't we?" Xiang Cheng. Zhi Xiaoduo said, "Isn't it good to just eat and wait for death?" Xian Hezi. Xiang Cheng, "We're happy, but why do you suddenly say that?" Xian Hezi, "I don't feel happy." Zhi Xiaoduo thought, "Only now do you feel unhappy?" Xiang Cheng said, you can try adjusting things. People need to constantly lift themselves up and update themselves. Xian Hezi sighed and said, I feel like I'm just getting worse and worse. Zhi Xiaoduo ate a watermelon ball. He liked the center part of summer watermelon best, it was so sweet. He said, you can try to change yourself ma, for example. You can start with changing your cell phone, or throwing away some things you don't want at home. Upon hearing this, Xian Hezi suddenly remembered something and said, next month I will celebrate my birthday. Could you please come and play at my house then? Zhi Xiaoduo didn't want to go at all. When he thought of Xian Hezi's home, he remembered a pile of cardboard boxes, empty bottles, hotel sugar packets, and toilet paper rolls from the Exorcist committee bathroom. I will mail a gift to you, Zhi Xiaoduo said. It may not be possible to go. Xian Hezi was energized and asked, what gift? What do you want? Zhi Xiaoduo asked. It can't be too materialistic or too vulgar, Xian Hezi thought for a moment and said, I have decided to change myself. So, would a hand-drawn greeting card be okay? Zhi Xiaoduo asked. Xian Hezi suddenly collapsed and roared, after our long friendship, you're just going to give me a hand-painted greeting card for my birthday. Xiang Cheng quickly signaled to Xian Hezi to calm down and said, greeting cards only represent intentions, there will be other vulgar things. Xian Hezi only then nodded. That same day, Chen Zhen finished organizing the report and asked Zhi Xiaoduo to help with the record keeping. He packed up his luggage and bid farewell to the owners and Yaoguai together with Xian Hezi. Xian Hezi also shook hands with Lang Dog, feeling a bit reluctant. The two of them then boarded the plane. When he arrived in Beijing in the evening, a rainstorm began. Xian Hezi, carrying his own bag and Chen Zhen's trunk, drove Chen Zhen back first. Chen Zhen said, come up for a cup of tea and take a bath before you leave, ba. No thanks. Xian Hezi said, Director, have a good rest. I'm heading back now. Xian Hezi and Chen Lang greeted each other. Chen Zhen closed the door, then handed him the key from the anti-theft door and said, you can take the car back ba. I'll take the subway to work tomorrow. No need. Xian Hezi said, I'll take a taxi back. Chen Lang saw that Xian Hezi didn't take the key and asked Chen Zhen what was going on. Chen Zhen signaled at him, but Chen Lang thought he had seen wrong. Chen Zhen explained, it's probably because the car ran out of gas. Chen Lang chased after him and gave Xian Hezi an umbrella. Xian Hezi was very moved and said, thank you. Xian Hezi hurriedly descended the stairs and opened his umbrella. The wind and rain were strong, and though the umbrella covered him, it did not cover his bag. The bus stop was almost empty, and he was standing alone in the rain. The bus still didn't come, and at that moment, he suddenly felt a feeling of being abandoned by all things in heaven and earth. A Maserati sped past, splashing Xian Hezi all over with water. Xian Hezi stood at the side of the road and cursed loudly. His umbrella fell into the water, and he shouted at the back of the car, do you know who I am? Be careful, Yaoguai might eat you. The rain gradually subsided, making millions of splashes on the roads in Beijing. Coffee shops on the roadside were broadcasting Mo Wenwei's love. Xian Hezi. Xian Hezi stopped trying to keep the umbrella up and walked towards the subway station panting, carrying a huge luggage bag. When he arrived at the subway station, the bag was almost caught in the compartment door. After a lot of twists and turns, he finally returned to his one-bedroom and living room place he rented in Beijing. Is it asleep? Xian Hezi said to himself, rummaging through his bag for the key, opening the door and entering, completely soaked. This was an urban village in the Fengtai district, with a rent of 3,600 yuan per month. The organization reimbursed rent, and Xian Hezi had found this after a lot of effort. There was a sofa bed in the living room and a bed in the room. Xian Hezi went in and took a look. Inside the blanket was a very teeny tiny yaoguai, only the size of a full-term puppy. Its 4 paws were spread out and it lay there, prone. Xian Hezi rubbed the little yaoguai through the blanket, opened up the blanket and glanced at it, revealing the round head of a pixiu. Ao, the little pixiu drowsily moved around a bit. "Hello. I'm back," Xian Hezi said. The little pixiu ignored him, shifted around, and continued sleeping. Xian Hezi went to change his clothes and take a shower. He took off all his clothes and pants, and looked at himself in the mirror. His skin was fair and he often ran around, so his muscles were well formed, his hands and legs were long, and his hair was cut short, which was very energetic. However, because he had no partner, he was always suffocating. After washing up, the pixiu was still sleeping. Xian Hezi tidied up the house a bit and saw that all the cheese had been eaten, so he put some more in the small pixiu's bowl. Opening the cabinet, there were neatly stacked rolls of toilet paper inside. Xian Hezi opened the drawer on one side of the cabinet, took a pair of disposable chopsticks from the full drawer, made some instant noodles, and took out his phone. However, he found that water had gotten into his phone and had killed it, which immediately made him feel depressed. "Aren't you hungry?" Xian Hezi shouted to the little pixiu in the room again, "Don't sleep anymore. Come out to eat ba." The little pixiu ignored him, and Xian Hezi had to come out carrying a blanket to sleep on the sofa. That night, Xian Hezi had a bunch of messy dreams. The next morning, he heard the cries of the pixiu and woke up. Xian Hezi's head was buzzing, and the pixiu kept crying at him from under the sofa, trying hard to climb up. Finally, it bit the blanket and pulled it off. Xian Hezi's underwear was all wet, and he quickly took it off, but the pixiu drew close to smell it. "Don't lick it!" Xian Hezi exclaimed, quickly snatching back his underwear and rushing to the bathroom, throwing it into the basin to soak in water. The little pixiu followed behind Xian Hezi, and wherever Xian Hezi went, the pixiu followed him, crying out "Ao Ao" incessantly. Xian Hezi's head hurt from the noise and said, Okay, all right, don't cry anymore, let's go eat ba, there's food in the bowl, no way, right? You already finished it?" Xian Hezi's chin dropped with a thunk, and he said, "How do you eat so much?" The little pixiu stared at Xian Hezi, and Xian Hezi had to open the refrigerator and take out the beef for it to eat. "Is it tasty?" Xian Hezi was drowsy and looked at the little pixiu. The little pixiu ignored Xian Hezi again and began to eat crazily. Xian Hezi felt that his forehead was burning hot, his throat was also burning, and his chest felt stuffy and nauseous. After a moment, he stumbled and fell to the ground head first. *******. In August in Beijing, the scorching sun was blazing hot. A car drove over, and Zhou Wanyuan gracefully got out of the car, carrying a fruit basket. Together with Chao Ben, they entered the entrance of Xian Hezi's unit, only to find that there was no elevator. Who? Zhou Wanyuan was about to die from fatigue from climbing the stairs. Chao Ben rang the doorbell of Xian Hezi's house, but the doorbell was broken, and he could only knock. "Director Xian." Chao Ben said, "Are you at home?" Zhou Wanyuan angrily said, "There's no elevator and you still live on the 8th floor ah." "Xian Hezi, get the fuck out here for Laoniang." There was no movement from the inside. Chao Ben called Chen Zhen and said, "No one is here. Has he gone to work? He probably got heat stroke during the day yesterday, and he also got rained on at night," Chen Zhen said over the phone. "Knock some more and see, and if that doesn't work, then use the key. Hurry up and open the door ba." "It's so hot," Zhou Wanyuan said. Chen Zhen had previously handed Chao Ben a spare key they found in Xian Hezi's drawer. They didn't know if it was his house key or not, but when Chao Ben tried it, it indeed worked. "Xian Hezi." Chao Ben put his headphones around his neck and said, "Wait. There's Yao Qi here. Zhou Wanyuan turned pale and immediately took out her magic artifact. The two of them rushed into Xian Hezi's house at lightning speed. Qiao Ben leaned back against the door and looked around, only to hear the sound of AO and a chomping sound. At the corner, half of Xian Hezi's calf was exposed. Zhou Wanyuan immediately thought of the scene of Yao Guai eating people, and her soul shattered with fear. The fruit basket fell to the ground, and the fruit rolled back and forth. Qiao Ben rushed in first and shouted, "Xian Hezi!" Xian Hezi was naked and lying on the ground, all four limbs splayed out. The little pixie who was eating next to him glanced at Qiao Ben only for a short moment before burying his head in his bowl and continuing to eat. Qiao Ben. ******. 1 hour later. Xian Hezi was in a state of exhaustion, lying in a hospital bed and receiving intravenous fluids. He had gotten heat stroke after running around during the day yesterday, caught a cold in the rain after returning to Beijing at night, and then due to not turning on the air conditioning after taking a shower, the living room was too stuffy and he had experienced heat stroke twice. Xian Hezi. Qiao Ben thought for a moment and said helplessly, "How are you?" "Don't mention it," Xian Hezi moaned, struggling to get up. "We used your medical insurance," Qiao Ben quickly comforted him and told him to lie down well. The ward door opened, and Chen Zhen came in, saying to the nurse, "We want to talk alone." The nurse closed the door of the ward room, and Chen Zhen looked seriously at Xian Hezi and said, "How did you?" "Don't mention it," moaned Xian Hezi. "Can you have some sympathy for me?" "This matter is very serious," Chen Zhen said. "You say it yourself, what should we do?" Xian Hezi covered his pillow on his face, looking as if he was about to die. While he was unconscious, the little pixie had rushed out with a shuo, swaggering through the streets and being photographed by many people, causing Qiao Ben to have a hard time cleaning up the mess. While calling for an ambulance, Qiao Ben and Zhou Wanyuan had chased the pixie around the street, and Zhou Wanyuan had even gotten her heel stuck in a manhole cover. Next Monday, Chen Zhen said, "After you recover, you will report to the Exorcist committee and also compensate Zhou Wanyuan for her high heels." "It's that serious?" Upon hearing that, Xian Hezi immediately recovered from his illness and sat up, asking, "How much do high heels cost?" "Forget the high heels for now. Pixies are national first-grade protected yaoguai, and are at the level of a spiritual beast," Chen Zhen said. "According to the organization's requirements, all underage yaoguai need to be registered and filed. When did you start raising a young pixie at home? And once the pixie reaches adulthood, it will be very dangerous. As a cadre member, how can you raise a yaoguai at home? Now the entire Exorcist committee knows. Listen to me explain." Xian Hezi hurriedly said, "Director. I admit to it. Doesn't Xiang Cheng's family also raise yaoguai?" Xian Hezi thought for a moment, thinking that he could still be rescued. "Xiang Cheng has a dual identity," Qiao Ben said. "He himself is the Yao King, so how can you compare yourself to him? Then before that there was Elder Zheng, he also had yaoguai around him." Xian Hezi then said. Chen Zhen said, "If you have the qualifications of Elder Zheng, naturally no one would be managing you. He was the one who organized the Exorcist Committee during the founding of the People's Republic of China after all." Qiao Ben thought for a moment and said, "Tell us about the situation." "Today, I have to go back and report to Teacher Zhou, so maybe some accommodations can be made." Xian Hezi sighed helplessly and said, "My Shifu died early. When my Shifu died, I was catching Yao and searching for treasures outside. Upon hearing the news, I hurried back a moment too late. My Shidis had already cremated Shifu, divided up the magical artifacts, and gone their separate ways." "Chen Zhen, get to the point." Xian Hezi said, "Shifu's things had all been divided among them, and I wanted to search some more when suddenly, I remembered that when I was a child, in the middle of the night, I saw Shifu secretly burying something in a flower pot in the backyard of the sect. I thought it was some treasure at the time, Xianhezi explained. I wanted to dig it out and see, but I found an egg in the end. Chao Bin. Xianhezi said, I thought, well, if it's an egg, then it's an egg. After Shifu died and the sect dispersed, I had no relatives and had to come to find Shifu's old friend, Elder Zheng. Elder Zheng introduced me to Master Chiao. That was when we first met, Chen Zhen said. You had come to take the exam. Xianhezi nodded and said, yes. Later, Master Chiao applied for a relocation expense for me, and I rented the house I now have in Beijing, and I took this egg to my new home. At first, I didn't know it could hatch, so I set up an altar and kept the egg. Shifu's relics had all been divided among my Shidi, so I had no choice but to treat the egg like my Shifu. Chen Zhen said, why didn't you tell Elder Zheng about this? Xianhezi hesitated. Chen Zhen and Chao Bin thought to themselves, he was probably treating the egg as a treasure and didn't say anything because he was scared of it being stolen from him. Xianhezi then said, didn't I come to Beijing without a salary? Master Chiao didn't care, and I was really hungry that day. Chen Zhen. Chao Bin. Xianhezi, so I went downstairs to buy instant noodles. When I came back, I saw something running around the house, eating whatever it saw. Chen Zhen roared, why didn't you report it back then? Xianhezi said, I didn't dare. I was new, and I didn't understand anything. What if I was disqualified from the special operation team? I was afraid I'd be punished. You are an exorcist, Chen Zhen said. Didn't you study before the written exam? How should an exorcist who hides Yaoguai be dealt with? Xianhezi remained silent, and both Chen Zhen and Chao Bin knew that he definitely couldn't bear to part with that Pixiu. Perhaps he even had the idea of letting Pixiu go do some acrobatics to make some money. Xianhezi said, where's the Pixiu? It's at the Exorcist Committee, Chen Zhen said. Based on the rules, we should lock it in the underground prison, but Chao Bin interceded on your behalf, so it didn't get locked up. Xianhezi exclaimed oh and asked, then what now? Chen Zhen's lungs were about to explode from anger, and Xianhezi began to exclaim, the Exorcist Committee prohibits exorcists from staying with Yaoguai, right? Even if I had reported it, they would definitely have to take the little Pixiu away. Where could they take it? Release it? It doesn't even have a home, where can it go? In the past, there was a catch and release policy in the Exorcist Committee. During the process of catching Yaoguai, if a big Yaoguai killed someone, then its cubs that didn't understand anything would usually be released. But the premise for the release regulations to take effect for ordinary Yaoguai had little to do with spiritual beasts. For example, if a wolf cultivated for many years and became a wolfyao, that meant that if it wanted to breed offspring, it needed to find another wolfyao to pair up with. Only in this way, with two wolfyao together, could a little wolf be born. And the most important point was that the offspring of the Yao tribes themselves did not become enlightened at birth, they also needed to age and gradually cultivate over time. The only advantage for Yaoguai cubs was that they had parents to guide them and passively learn to cultivate from. However, with Yaoguai needing to teach so many things to their offspring while also relying on favorable conditions to make it enlightened, this was a very difficult problem, and often had a success rate of less than 1%. Most offspring could not become enlightened, and eventually they would naturally die of old age. With that, most Yaoguai were unwilling to have children since there was no way to teach them after they were born, or the children themselves were not guaranteed to learn. So, after an exorcist destroyed a Yaoguai lair, they either didn't see any cubs, or if there were cubs, they couldn't become enlightened anyway. They were usually handed over to wildlife protection organizations and released after being raised to maturity. There had never been a situation where someone all on their own had smashed a white tiger or phoenix's nest and captured a group of starving little spiritual beasts. So, Chen Zhen didn't know what to do with this Pixiu. If he let Xian Hezi keep it, that was clearly against the rules, much less the fact that when the Pixiu had run out of his house, it had shaken the whole Exorcist committee, so that wouldn't work. If they let it go free, that was even more troublesome. A spiritual beast like a Pixiu would definitely become enlightened. Get Xiang Cheng to think of a solution. Chao Ben said, I remember there is a repatriation treaty. So far, that's the only way, Chen Zhen said. Yaoguai are under their control, and we can only send it to the sacred land first and have it handed over to Fengli to care for. Fortunately, after Xiang Cheng took office, in order to protect the interests of the Yao tribes, he signed a series of contracts with the Exorcist Committee, including a repatriation treaty to take over the Yaoguai, which meant that the Yao Association had the right to demand that the Exorcist Committee surrender all Yaoguai that had not violated national laws. Chen Zhen gave Xiang Cheng a call, and Zhi Ziaduo over there immediately said, Okay, a Pixiu. I want it. Xiang Cheng quickly stopped Zhi Ziaduo's excitement of taking the Yaoguai as his own and asked, How old is the Pixiu? It doesn't understand anything right now, Chen Zhen said on the phone from the car. It's running wildly around the Exorcist Committee, it's very troublesome. Xiang Cheng said, I'll think of a solution. Zhi Ziaduo returned to his senses. According to ancient books, Pixius were very fierce auspicious beasts. Although it was called an auspicious beast, it had a strong attack power and was really high-leveled. Based on animal types, it was considered a beast, but it was also a descendant of a dragon. If it was placed in the sacred land, there was no Yaoguai in the entire sacred land that could suppress it. The most troublesome thing is that it doesn't understand anything yet, Xiang Cheng said. It's too young, just 1 year old. Zhi Ziaduo suggested, let's take a look first. End chapter.